Hello everybody, Corey from Gemini Guitar, and we're back for, well, this is the first episode actually for the Patreon subscribers anyway, so it's Dream Pop Deconstruction, and we're starting out with some chill arpeggios. So I wouldn't describe these as super easy, but they're really not that difficult, honestly. Also provided are the arpeggio maps and the fretboard map. So for each arpeggio map you'll find the root note, the third, the fifth, and its seventh. And basically what this means is they're the notes that are going to work over that progression the best. You can fit the scale notes in there too, but when you're starting out, those arpeggio intervals are the absolute best ones to start with. And generally you want to start on the root note, which is what you'll notice when we go through the idea. As far as the sound that I'm using, guitar's the DBZ Halcyon. The plugin I'm using is the Easy Mix 2. Take note there, it's a pretty unique sound because it's from the Ambient pack, but generally the effects you'd want to use for this type of thing would be chorus, delay, and reverb. And the reverb you want to be kind of washed out a bit to give it that spacey vibe. The chorus, not too much, and the delay, that will help with the ambience as well. Okay, so let's get on with it. We're going to start out in the second position. So what we're going to be doing to begin with is it's just a C major arpeggio, the root, the third, and the fifth. And then what we're going to do is just embellish that with the higher root, the seventh, major seventh, and then back to the fifth. So it'll look and sound a bit like this. Next we're doing the A minor arpeggio, that's the open A for the root, C is the third, E is the fifth. Got the minor 7, that's the G note, onto the higher root in the octave, and then back to the fifth. So far we've followed the same pattern. For the F part of the progression, we're going to change it a little bit when we get to the second half of it. So what we're going to do here is start with the F major arpeggio, just F, A, and C. That's bar 9. We've got the E note, that's the major 7, up to the root note in the higher octave, and then back to the major 7. This time we're not including the fifth. And from this point then we've got the G major arpeggio, G, B, and D. That's root, third, fifth. And we've got the higher root, or the note higher in the higher octave, I should say. Then we've got the fifth again, which is the D note, and then back to the root in the higher octave. Just a kind of a subtle thing that I do there too. You can let those ring out, they'll sound okay. If you don't want them to though, what I do is I play the third string, then I just put the first finger very lightly onto it to mute it as I play the D note. Don't press on it, just very, very lightly, like a feather. Okay, so this is where the real fun begins. It sounds really cool. We're going to be up in pretty much the highest area of the neck. We're going to be going all the way up to fret 20. So this time we're going to be going through up into like, I think for the C part we've got the C in the lowest, at least for this area of the guitar, the lowest octave. We've got one at the 17th fret and another one at fret 20. And then we've got the other intervals in between. So when we go through it, we've got the root note in the fifth first. Got the major 7 into the root in the higher octave. Then we've got the third, that's the E note at fret 17 on the second string. And then we've got the G note, which is the fifth, fret 20 on the second string. That would be fret 8 down on the same string for the lower octave. And then we've got the B note, which is the major 7, into the highest octave. Whoops. Oh, that sounded kind of cool, actually. So that's the B's at fret 19, and next door to that's the highest root. So it'll look and sound like this, just as a, not a rhythmic playthrough, but just all the notes. Let's have a listen. One more time. So that sounds really cool. The other thing you would have noticed while I was playing it, I do like to use vibrato a bit as I'm playing it, so I get this effect. And what that tends to do is, I find it's got kind of an Asian sort of sound about it. So that's the effect I'm going for there. So now we're into the A minor 7 part of the progression. So essentially what we're going to do in the, this will be bar 15, we're actually playing through an A minor 7 chord, which is generally what arpeggios are anyway. They're essentially just the notes of a chord played individually as opposed to strummed. But in this case, we can actually fret up the chord shape that we're doing. So I'm barring at the 12th fret, and then I've got the middle at fret 13 on the 2nd string, and the 3rd finger at fret 14 on the 4th. But obviously we don't need to worry about that because we're going to play it as a melody. So we get... And we're going to finish off then with the minor 7 at fret 15 into the highest root at 17. Moving down into the F major 7 part of it, and again we can play this as the chord if we want, which is a really beautiful chord. I love it. Major 7 chords are probably my favourite for the dream pop style. They just sound so good. Very Robin Guthrie-esque, the Cocteau Twins guy, bands like that. What's the other one he's in? I think it was Violet, Indiana. Very good music too. Has a French singer. And then finishing off then at fret 12 on string 1, that's the major 7, the E note, into the octave of F, highest octave, back to the major 7. So we get... And then lastly, we've got the G dominant 7, or just simply G7. So the dominant 7 voicing is an interesting one because what it essentially is a major chord with the addition of a minor 7th. So normally you would have, say, G major 7. That means the 7th is just one semitone higher than the minor 7. So, but it's neither a major 7 nor a minor 7. It's a combination. So we get a major chord. The root 3rd and 5th are major. Root major 3rd, perfect 5th, which is common to the minor 7 and the major 7. And then we have the minor 7 chord. Sorry, the minor 7 interval. So it's a nice sound to end off with. It even sounds nice just as an open chord here. There was a band called Travis that used to do this song called, well, they probably still do if they're still around. It was just called Love, L-U-V. That was off the Man Who album. Great album. And they had some dominant 7 voicings in that. Sounded really cool. So fret 10, and this one we can play as the barred voicing as well. If you just put your index finger to bar over from strings 1 to 5 on the 10th, and then you put the 3rd at fret 12 on the 4th, and the pinky at fret 12 on the 2nd. Whoops. Of course, we're going to play that as a melody. And what we're going to do here is a little bit different to what we've been doing because we want to finish the piece off. So we're going to add some extra notes in at the end. Okay, so we've got the 15th fret for the G root note. Then we're venturing out of the chord a bit. We're going to play an E note. In fact, I think at this point we're basically almost inferring back to the C chord because we're resolving. So we've got G, which would be the 5th, E's the 3rd, and then we've got 13th fret, 2nd string, that's the C note. That'd be the root note of the C major 7. We've got the major 7 B, fret 12, and we've got the D note, which isn't in the C major 7 chord, but we're getting very close to ending. And we're going to go back to the B note and resolve on the C note. And you'll notice at the end there it plays the C bass note. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that one. It's a really cool sounding piece, and there'll be more in this style to come, both on the channel and on the Patreon here. So until the next lesson, bye for now.